gentlemen, we do not believe in side proposition that terrorists should be tried or should go to military courts, because there are fundamental differences between the nature of a terrorist and the nature of a military. We have so far shared with you two main arguments that explain our case. One, that has to do with the nature of civilian courts versus military courts, and how we believe that military courts are outdated and unethical, and by definition are unjust and biased. The innocents cannot be pulled apart in these military courts, and we are willing to take terrorists to civilian courts, even if it is regarded as something of a lower level by the opposition, just because of the advantages it offers, civilian courts offer in terms of evidence, in terms of judgment, and in terms of impartiality. Then we talk about how terrorists are not part of the military. And ladies and gentlemen, we believe that there is a very important difference between these two groups of people. First of all, we're going to talk about how there was a basic contract between a soldier, let's say, and the military institution he or she works for. This is not the case for terrorists, even though they might have some, they might share some characteristics such as that of hierarchy, or such as that of an organization, or even the use of weapons. But ladies and gentlemen, how vague are these characteristics that this could be related to any other group that might have some organization? What is the fundamental difference? And we know this is, and we are still looking for that coming from side opposition. Ladies and gentlemen, we, by taking terrorists just as military, we're legitimizing their cause and formalizing terrorist organizations, saying, yes, you belong to a structure, you belong to an institution, which by definition is not something that terrorists seek, and which I am going to talk about during in my own argument, which are the effects of trying terrorists in military courts, in civilian courts. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at what Sigberta said on side opposition. He told us at first that there were some similarities between military and terrorists, and he told us that we couldn't expect a New Yorker to judge in the same way a terrorist or a serial killer. But ladies and gentlemen, a very important assumption that he mentioned is that, of course, if someone declares himself guilty, whether terrorist or not terrorist, the jury will judge them differently. Will know. No, thank you, sir. They will know in advance that the suspect is confirming a part of their job. So it doesn't matter whether he's terrorist or not terrorist. We still believe that if someone declares himself guilty, it would be the reaction of the jury would just be the same. And for that reason, their point of that doesn't stand. Yes, sir.
The impact that a terrorist suspect has on a civilian jury is really different than one that it doesn't have in a military.
Thank you, sir. So you're saying that the impact that a serial killer has on a jury is not the same that terrorists would have with the same jury. We do not believe this is the case, because we believe, ladies and gentlemen, that although there might be some differences in the end of both parts, we believe that people are still getting hurt from this, and then therefore we don't believe there's any difference between their reaction. And even if these were different, we do not believe, by other reasons that have to do with presentation of evidence, that have to do with more advantages that civilian courts offers, we believe that even if this were the case of different reactions to this suspect, we believe this is still outweighed by the benefits of having a civilian court. Ladies and gentlemen, Sigberta told us at first that French army and terrorists were not the same, but then he told us that they were the same, because they should be regarded the same in order to have terrorists tried in military courts. So ladies and gentlemen, where this opposition is really standing. Then he told us something about international law, and how terrorists judged in civilian courts would be judged by the principles of a single country, by principles which are not regarded as internationally agreed. But ladies and gentlemen, we do not believe that there is any less importance given that there should not be, that civilian courts should not be regarded as less important than any other treaty that has to do with international court, with international law, because then you would be saying that civilian, no thank you sir, you would be saying that civilian courts judging serial killers or any other violent crime doesn't have as much value as international, no thank you sir, as any other international treaty that tries to deal with terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not believe there should be given less value. No thank you sir. But side opposition told us that they were going to explain us how their focus was on their act, on what they did. And we're still waiting for an explanation having to do with that, because we want to know really what is the fundamental difference between trying a terrorist in a civilian court than trying a serial killer or any other violent criminal in a civilian court. Ladies and gentlemen, going into my substantive material, we believe that there are effects of trying terrorists in civilian courts. There are symbolic reasons, ladies and gentlemen, to subject terrorists to the subject of the jurisdiction they seek to reject by definition, by the organization they are being part of. By trying terrorists in civilian courts, ladies and gentlemen, and this is another advantage of trying terrorists in civilian courts, we would be sending a message to those involved in terrorist organizations and to our society. Ladies and gentlemen, terrorists, for different reasons, have alienated themselves from society, and they have chosen to harm it in different ways.
What do you mention, man?
No, thank you, sir. So, they have alienated themselves from the legal systems and other institutions which, by definition, as I have already said, they reject. Ladies and gentlemen, sending them to civilian courts and not to the trial courts, and I'll take you in a second, sir, would mean bringing terrorists back to a legal scheme and recognizing that despite any committed crime, they belong to a society whose duty would be, in the case of civilian courts, to judge them as one of their peers, ladies and gentlemen, despite of any other reaction that they might have. This would mean that, this is what we mean when we say that civilian courts are not only the best way of judging terrorist suspects, but are also symbols in which those affected, be it a country, be it a group of individuals, get to know and get to face the responsible of their actions. Ladies and gentlemen, we believe that this is very important, and Bernardo talked about that in his first argument. There is more to organizational advantages in civilian courts, but there is also a meaning that has to do with the effect. A symbolic meaning that has to do with terrorists facing not only evidence, but also facing those who they affected with their actions. It is on those grounds, ladies and gentlemen,